All right, joining us this morning is a Bayan Party List Representative Chel Diokno. Good morning to you, Representative Diokno.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning to everyone watching. Thank you for
All
that.
right. Representative Diokno, you are one of how many of you voted no with the budget?
12 of us voted no.
Are one of 12 who voted no. I think it's important first, let us explain to the public what is the danger of having 243 billion pesos in unprogrammed funds.
Well, first of all, when we speak of unprogrammed funds, they're not part of the regular budget. They're really intended to be a standby fund for things that are not anticipated. Now, when you put in 240 billion worth of foreign-assisted projects into unprogrammed appropriations, it's like you're saying that these are not pre-planned, when in fact, all foreign-assisted projects are matagal yang pinag-uusapan at there's a lot of documentation involved. So that these items, these are what we call big-ticket items, should really be in the regular budget with line items that can be scrutinized by members of Congress and discussed with the executive so that we can be sure that these are all proper and will be properly allocated and funded.
Hindi pa ba natuto ang Kongreso? Tama po ba, Representative Diokno, na in 2025, tinanggal din ng 19th Congress ang pondo for foreign-assisted projects, yung ating counterpart funding?
Yes, and if you look at the previous budgets beginning from 2022, doon lumaki, doon nagballoon ang unprogrammed appropriations natin. There are two things I think we should be on the lookout for. Number one, prior to 2022, there were already unprogrammed appropriations in the net, but these were never touched by Congress. But beginning in 2022, you saw big increases, and in 2025, what we saw were these increases came from the BICAM. These were what we call now insertions. And doon din lumabas yung mga flood control projects na ngayon ay naging skandalo na. Yung ghost projects, etc. Kaya para sa amin, if I'm speaking for Akbayan here, we should really clean the slate and start with zero unprogrammed appropriations to show the public that we are serious. We have fiscal discipline. We're professional in dealing with the budget, and all big ticket items we put into the regular budget already.
Okay, but Representative Amika Swansing, who's the chairperson of the House Appropriations Committee, says that unprogrammed appropriations are necessary because of we need to fund foreign-assisted infra projects that did not make the deadline during the budget preparation. So merong ganun po ba? Are those that did not make the deadline?
Well, to me, there are two questions there. Number one, why did they not make the deadline? Because given that the foreign-assisted projects are well known in advance, that these are negotiated with our international partners, then they should have made the deadline. Are we rewarding neglect or negligence by including them in the unprogrammed appropriations? Now, even if kailangan ihabol yan, why not then, when they are already firm commitments, include them in a supplemental budget?
Oo, so pwede kasi yun, no? Ang supplemental budget. Oo. Ang tanong, ang unprogrammed funds po ba, may pondo nang nakatabi doon pero wala pang paglalaanan? Ganun po ba yun? Kumbaga nandun ang pera pero walang paglalaanan. Or ito po ba, nagkakaroon lang ng pondo kapag may sobra sa nakolektang buwis or kita ang gobyerno?
Pag may sobra lang, it's very clear that unprogrammed appropriations are only allowed when certain revenue conditions are met. For example, may excess sa revenue, non-revenue tax collections natin that went beyond the target. O kaya may mga new tax or non-tax revenues. So yun yung mga condition. At pangatlo, yung approved foreign loans for foreign-assisted projects.
Oo. But why would we need unprogrammed funds, palagay po nyo, considering the budget? How much was the increase of the 2026 budget? Was it by 9% or ilang persyento po? Kasi taon-taon tumataas.
Yes, we saw really a big balloon when we speak of the unprogrammed appropriations beginning in 2022, and that continues up to now, although ngayon medyo mas mababa yan compared to 2025, but still, you're speaking of 240 more or less, over 200 billion pesos worth of FAPs there.
Okay. But usually, since the rule of unprogrammed funds is it is excess income, excess collection from the government, given the situation that, in terms of tax collection, additional revenue, are unprogrammed funds usually funded?
I think it would depend. It depends on the particular collections and excess revenues for that particular year. But there's another aspect I think to the Incheban program appropriations, and that is kung may fiscal discipline ang executive department at pati ang Kongreso, then there really should be no need to put hundreds of billions into unprogrammed appropriations. I can understand the small amount that goes there. Dati naman may ganun eh. Pero not those huge amounts, because as you know, these are vulnerable to the exercise of discretion. In effect, they're discretionary funds that no longer will pass the scrutiny of Congress, and bahala na ang DBM na mag-decide kung paano gagamitin, kailan at magkano.
Oo. And can unprogrammed funds be used hypothetically for flood control projects, multi-purpose buildings? Pwede ba yun?
Yes, the problem as well is that there are special provisions that allow leeway on the part of the Department of Budget and Management in terms of the use of unprogrammed appropriations, and that's another reason why we believe that this really is it goes against the power of the purse that should be remain with Congress always.
Oo. So, kumbaga, if, because this budget boasts of removing flood control projects, these unprogrammed funds can be used for the same thing that still end up with projects in the DPWH.
Well, that's the problem, because we have the typical accountability measures that you have if those items were put into the regular budget are not present at just like what we found out afterward last year, baka malaman na lang natin yan pag natapos na. And these are things that really go against the way our budget should be processed by Congress.
Okay. Now, another question with the budget is the inclusion of COVID health works pay in the 2026 budget. May nadagdag doon sa 2026 budget na bayad for COVID workers. Ito ba ang hindi pa nabayaran? Kumbaga may utang pa ang gobyerno sa healthcare workers during COVID?
Parang lumalabas nga na ganun, and it's a good thing that you pointed it out, because that raises a lot of questions. Bakit hanggang ngayon ang tagal na niyan ay nandiyan pa yan? And who has the accountability for this? Why is this happening? This item should have already been settled long ago.
Yeah, because I remember, I believe this was right after COVID. It was already questioned before why payment for health workers of COVID was under unprogrammed funds. So posible pa, Representative Diokno, na for years, hindi naka-line item ang utang sa health workers na nagtrabaho allowances during COVID.
Yes, and if that's the case, talaga nakakabahala at nakakagalit yan. Kasi we know how much sacrifice was made by our health workers during that time. And they should have been duly compensated ever since.
Okay. Now, from the flood control projects, we've been hearing farm to market roads. There's also been an expose that out of the DOH health centers, out of 600, 400 are not working or unused or idle. May pondo pa ba sa pagpapatayo ng more health centers? The irony, we do need health centers.
Yes, I was shocked myself when during the budget hearings, we found out from the Department of Health Secretary that out of the 600 health centers that should be operating, only 200 are operational, despite the fact that in the last 10 years, around 400 billion pesos of our budget has been allocated towards putting up and maintaining health centers. When we found that out, I did some research and I found out that even our Commission on Audit has been flagging this for years. Since 2017, they have been really admonishing the Commission on Audit to strengthen its procedures to make sure that this money doesn't go to waste. And that's also one of the reasons why we're going to look into this now that the budget season is over. When we resume sessions, we really want to get to the bottom of this. Bakit ganon? Yung health centers natin, these are supposed to be the frontline services for ordinary citizens. And yet, it would appear that for the last decade, na-neglect ito. And that explains why, health services in our country still are at a very primitive stage that we need to improve them.
Okay, so the budget of the DOH for 2026 is roughly 253 billion pesos. Where is most of the 253 billion going?
Oh, well, I don't have the figures with me now, but what I know is that the Department of Health budget, if you look at it from the bigger point of view, really two things again. And number one, maliit pa rin yan compared to the World Health Organization recommendations. It's less than 2% if I got my numbers right, when it should be around 5%. Number two ay saan napupunta? Ito ba ay napupunta sa mga dapat puntahan na nilalaan natin? And that's one of the reasons why when we speak of the Health Facilities Enhancement Program, the Secretary of Health himself said that this is their version of the flood control. And that really made me, really alerted me, because sabi ko, if he himself says that this is the version of flood control, then there must be something there we must look into, and there has to be accountability as well.
But a part of the 253 billion for DOH, will it go to reviving or funding the 400 that is not usable today?
Yes, part of that budget is going to the HFEP. But there's been some finger pointing on the part of the Department of Health. Sabi nila ang may kasalanan daw dahil na hindi operational yung ibang health facility centers ay dahil daw sa LGU. To me, that also reflects on a lack of planning on the part of the Department of Health, as flagged by the Commission on Audit, na from the get-go, dapat na-identify na nila, okay, we have this money, we're gonna put up health centers. Number one, are they gonna be put in the right locations? Number two, are we sure that they're going to be properly maintained so that they will remain operational and providing services to our people?
Okay. I'm curious, Representative Diokno, while you voted no, when it comes to the BICAM, supposedly it's more transparent today. Would you agree that it's more transparent?
We have yet to see whether it will be more transparent. We had actually filed a resolution months back calling on Congress to open the BICAM to provide access to the public, kung kaya nga i-live stream natin, so that there will be no more issues about having secret or insertions during the BICAM proceedings. I understand that when he was then the minority leader, now Senate President Soto also filed a similar resolution in the Senate. So we're hoping that both houses will agree to this and that we can come up with an open BICAM to assure the public that there will be no more yung nangyari in the last budget cycles. Wala pa rin eh. We haven't yet gotten that approved by the House.
Okay. Is there a way, this is coming from Congressman Toby Tiangco's expose, that essentially he went line by line, no? He went line by line per district of the 2025 budget, and Tiangco discovered insertions in each district amounting to 13 billion pesos, 14 billion pesos. This is after pa the BICAM, no? So kumbaga nag-BICAM, nadagdagan na yung distrito, let's say, ng 5 bilyon. Pero after noon, meron pang isang pagdagdag. So, ang tanong ko, is there any way at this point to check how much is each district is getting for the DPWH budget?
Yes, and that's the problem with a closed BICAM na walang records, hindi natin alam kung saan nanggagaling yan. That practice really must stop. And should begin this budget cycle with a really open and transparent BICAM process.
Okay. Another question is, when it comes to the BICAM, I know that we are calling for an open BICAM, but usually what is the practice, right? So there were reports coming from Congressman Ronnie Puno that during the 2025 BICAM, it was only Representative Zaldico, Senate President Chis Escudero that did their BICAM together, or that small committee. The speaker did not join the small committee or the BICAM, and neither did Senator Grace Poe. What is the practice when you do the BICAM? What is the speaker's role?
But unang-una, hindi dapat ganon. We cannot leave it to legislators to make those kinds of decisions, especially when no records apparently are kept, or if those records are there, they've not been released to the public. Dapat a BICAM. The only reason why we have a BICAM is to reconcile differences between the House and the Senate versions. And yet what we've seen is that they have gone far beyond what the purpose is. And how can we be sure that they will only do their job of reconciling? By making it public. That's the only way, and by making sure that every step in that process is recorded and that we are given access to what happened during those deliberations.
Okay, can a speaker of the House, regardless who it is, exonerate himself or herself by claiming, I did not join the BICAM? In other words, I didn't know what were the ongoings of the insertions. Posible bang dahilan yun ng isang speaker?
Well, the buck has to stop somewhere. And when we speak of huge amounts of money being allocated during what we would call insertions during the BICAM process, kailangan alam ng speaker yan. And that responsibility, both when we speak of the Senate and of the House, really remains with the leadership in both houses. And I think that you would be remiss if you left that entirely to someone else, or didn't claim not to know about it. There has to be responsibility, and that must end or stop with the person in charge.
Okay, now I want to ask you, just your opinion on the ICI. Are you hopeful with the ICI, Representative Diokno? They've explained why they don't want live stream, but they also have limitations when it comes to their powers, essentially. You have people that are invited as resource persons because they are investigating. So what do you make of the ICI?
There are many intrinsic problems with a executive created commission. That's why we filed a House Bill 4453 calling for the creation by Congress of an independent commission and giving it full power of subpoena and full power of contempt. That would appear to be what is lacking with the ICI. And also our bill calls for public hearings so that the public is apprised of what is happening every step of the way, as well as coordination with the Department of Justice. Because in cases like this involving billions of pesos of our money, people's money, there may be whistleblowers who would want to come out but would require certain protections. or even perhaps immunity, depending on whether they meet the conditions for immunity. And these are matters that should have come from Congress. That's why we are still hoping that we can get this bill passed, even if the ICI is already conducting its hearings.
Okay. Now, the new Ombudsman Remulla, has lifted SAL-N restrictions that were once imposed by former Ombudsman Samuel Martires. Will this make a difference at any point? I mean, really, we talk about, does wealth match a public official SAL-N? And in the Philippines, it usually never does, frankly. Very few live in a prudent way that matches their SAL-N. Anong kaibahan nito? Anong maitutulong nito?
Well, first of all, definitely, and I welcome the move by the new ombudsman. It's about time. Matagal na dapat yan naisa publiko ang mga SAL-N ng lahat ng mga opisyal. That's what the law provides. And to me, it's not only a legal obligation, it's an ethical obligation on the part of every public official to make known and release their SAL-N. The law is very simple. Any citizen, you don't have to give a reason. All you have to do is pay a minimal fee and you can get the SAL-N of any public official. And that's how it should be. Now, why is the SAL-N important? Because it provides the baseline for determining if an official has ill-gotten wealth. Kung ang dineclare niya ay ganito lang halaga yung kanyang assets at net worth, pero nakikita natin, dala-dala niya ay Ferrari, ang suit niyang relo ay worth 10 or 11 million, etc., etc. These are the best ways to show that a person, an official, is acquiring ill-gotten wealth.
Okay, my last question is this: is there still pork in the 2026 budget?
You know, as a member of the minority, my job is to be a fiscalizer. And while in as much as I would like to say that there's no pork, I think it's in the nature of the way politics operates in our country that there are politicians who will continue always to find ways to put pork into the budget. Dineclare na nga ng Supreme Court years ago, di ba, yung PDAF, yung mga issues natin, pero nakahanap pa rin ng paraan ang mga politiko natin. Kaya we're always vigilant about this and we will continue to be vigilant and to call out issues relating to pork and also misuse of our budget that belongs to all of us as the people.
Okay. Now, my last is, what do you make of the fact, well, the budget of the Vice President was cut and the Vice President essentially did not attend or snub the plenary debates?
That's to me the real issue there. If the Vice President was really serious about defending her budget, then dapat lang naman humarap siya. And that is what we expect of every executive official, regardless of what their politics are or their other beliefs are. No one can deny that the power of the purse belongs to Congress. And if you want to get the funds that you believe are necessary for your particular office or department, then at least man lang humarap ka at ipaglaban mo yung inyong request.
On that note, I want to thank you for joining me today, Akbayan Party List Representative Chel Diokno. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right.